Philip Kennedy Johnson, Tom Taylor, Joshua Williamson, Mike Perkins, Clayton Henry, and Nick Dragotta bring us into a new era of Superman as the Man of Steel's life is turned upside down by Lex Luthor. Philip Kennedy Johnson, Tom Taylor, and Joshua Williamson begin the brand new era with the Superman family titled Comics This Issue, setting up some very fun story arcs to head into the new year with. While I have absolutely been loving everything Johnson and Taylor have been doing throughout their Superman books, this one issue made me even more excited, to the level I had for pre-Flashpoint Superman books, back when they were doing stuff like the Black Ring or Superman Brainiac. It's really quite hard for me to quantify just how excited I am for these stories and how they've got me so intrigued with what's going on, and it feels all new, yet very classic Superman thanks to things like Superman and Lex fighting each other in space, something we've barely had the last few years. So to have Lex come back, first in Son of Kal-El and now back as an actual Clark Kent Superman villain, is really quite great, and I love that he's just a bit more of a traditional villain and no more multiversal aspirations like he had through the end of DC Rebirth. I do love that the writers also build on all of that sort of stuff and what Lex has been through, specifically the Perpetua stuff, and how that's informed Lex that Superman is something that is needed in the world, but he wants to do it his way and control Superman his way in classic Lex fashion. The Superman's identities were also reset, but not in just some magical kind of waved away, this is all because of the multiverse changing with Dark Crisis way. No, we actually get a kind of horrifying conclusion to this story, with anyone that thinks or learns that Clark and Superman are one and the same could die from knowing that information, but thanks to how Lex has set it up with Manchester Black's kind of psychic powers manipulating everyone. It's an interesting problem for the Supermen to deal with, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they deal with that throughout the coming issues. The most exciting thing for me, however, in a sea of exciting things, is the return of my favourite multiversal Superman, VAL-ZOD from Earth 2, who will be part of Taylor's new book dealing with a murder mystery of sorts where someone is killing off all of the Supermen in the multiverse. I'm super excited to see what he's been up to since we last caught up with him many years ago, and where we go with the character from his storyline, since he's only going to be in the miniseries at least for now, but could appear in other places, and I'm intrigued to see what Taylor has in store for us. Mike Perkins, Clayton Henry, and Nick Dragotta help shepherd the new storylines in with some fantastic looking artwork. Clayton and Nick's work with the Lex and Superman fight was so much fun, and I loved how Nick visualized the sound Lex's signal watch gives off, making it a lovely green and white that sort of contrasts with all of the other, blues and reds and yellows, and I like that we can actually see it attacking Superman in the panels, which is very difficult to do since it's difficult to visualize sound well. Mike's work bookending the issue was fantastically creepy as well, and I like the shadowy, inky work that fits with Lex's mad scientist vibe really well. Action Comics issue 1050 was a brilliant beginning to the new age of Superman family books, filled with character-focused, intriguing, canon-heavy storylines that never forget to have fun with the premise. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10. Action Comics issue 1050 finds Lex Luthor and his scientist waking up Manchester Black, reminding Black he's not finished reporting to Lex on Superman and he's got one more service he needs from the man, and it's a big one. Black is hooked up to a huge machine as Lex regrets the man has to die this way, but the result will be miraculous, and he wants to know one last thing. When Manchester fought beside Superman, did the Man of Steel actually make him a follower? Black knows that Superman did, and he sarcastically says that he's sorry to disappoint Lex. Black asks if Lex wants to know a secret, asking if Lex wants to know what Superman thinks of him in his darkest moments, and if Lex asks, he'll tell him. Lex of course asks what Superman says about him, and smiling, Manchester says that Superman says nothing about Lex, who after all these years has been obsessing over him like a lovesick tween and has spent trillions trying to kill him or make him look the fool. Superman doesn't even think of him at all. Lex becomes angered, saying goodbye to Manchester as he activates the machine, mixing Manchester's psychic power with his machine's power, unleashing it over the Earth. In Smallville, Lois asks John where his father is, and John can see that he's busy dealing with a burst dam in India, hoping he can go and help. Jay tells him to go, pretty sure he can set the table himself, but John tells him to call in case there's an emergency, leaving for India to help his father. Clark tells his son that they need to find some metal fast, fast so they can weld the dam closed. Back at the farm, Perry arrives, invited into the house where he is introduced to Jay. Perry knows all about who he is, knowing it's something to do with the younger Superman, but wonders why he is there. The Superman soon return and Clark hugs Perry, thanking him for coming, but Perry doesn't recognize him as Clark, asking why Superman is in the Kent household. Perry becomes confused, asking where Clark is as he begins to bleed from his nose. John notices something is wrong with Perry's heart as he falls to the ground. Later, Perry is seen to at a hospital. Clark tells Lois that Perry had a minor stroke. Lois wonders what could have made Perry forget that Clark is Superman, but Clark knows that the doctors don't know he's Superman either, and it's like the very idea that he is Superman almost killed Perry. Lois asks if this is limited to Smallville, and Clark's hearing is overtaken by a screeching sound. He knows it's a signal watch, following it to LexCorp and demanding Lex turn it off. Lex gleefully announces that he's always noticed that Jimmy Olsen has a watch like this, and when he realized it sent a signal to Superman, he decided to make his own, with some upgrades. Lex says that after his time with Perpetua, he had a type of revelation and it was hard for him to admit, but the world does need Superman, and since he's been proven right twice, first during Superman's adventure on Warworld and then during the recent Dark Crisis event where Superman was believed dead again, he knows there is many more challenges on the horizon and his symbol means so much to humanity and it can be used to lead humanity to a better future. Lex reveals a Superman themed warsuit, telling Clark that he wants to give the world his version of Superman, combining his mind and resources with Superman to fix the world. He knows that sacrifices will have to be made and the world needs to believe that Superman is a god and above them, not one of them, which is why the world can't know he's Clark Kent. Clark realizes that Lex is behind Perry not knowing who he is, and Lex reveals that while Superman was on Warworld, he gathered tech from Warworld and Henry Bendix's superhuman experiments and combined them with Manchester Black's powers, all to wipe Superman's identity from the minds of everyone on Earth. Superman knows he'll stop Lex, and Lex hoped it wouldn't come to this, activating his signal watch again and causing Superman pain as he assembles his new warsuit. He says that if anyone knows Superman's secret identity or he reveals it to anyone, it could kill them, and if he agrees to work with him, Lex might lift the punishment on the hero. Lex knows that Clark is lucky he left him with his marriage, but his son knowing who he is questionable and he might change that. Superman smashes Lex out of the building and into the street below, but Lex knows that he won't be hurt by Superman, but he can hurt others since that's what hurts Superman. Lex kicks a car filled with people away and Superman in an instant saves the car and appears behind Lex, smashing him into the air. Clark races up and grabs Lex, flying him into space and telling him he's done enough damage today, so they'll continue this conversation someplace safe. Superman tosses Lex into the moon, making the villain wonder why he even thought that he could reason with the hero since he's got too many muscles to see what is best for them all. Superman is done with Lex hurting the people he loves and the people of Earth, but Lex doesn't think that Superman knows anything of hurt, remembering when they used to live in Smallville at the same time and how he was so alone, like there was no one else in the universe who could understand what he was going through, and Clark just lied to him and hid who he really was when he could have helped him. Lex hits Superman with his Morning Star, angered that Superman gave his identity to the people, and if he wasn't good enough for the truth, no one is. Superman attacks Lex, telling him that he can make this right and tell him where Manchester Black is. Lex hits Superman back, saying that he never liked Black since he was smug and smoked, so the world is better off without him. Superman realizes what has happened and demands to know what Lex has done with the man, and Lex knows the hero is aware of what has happened, and in the end, Manchester was more useful to both of them since not only did he help Lex with his project, but he helped Superman's Warworld project as well. Lex fully admits to killing Manchester Black, but knows that it was a bargain since thanks to him, he has Warworld technology and enough power to make Superman submit. Superman smashes him into a satellite, calling him a murderer, and he asks Black to help him with Warworld, and he risked his life even when the Justice League said no. He said yes, and then Lex just killed him. Lex thinks that things will be easier now without Superman around, activating an orphan box inside his armor and blasting Superman to the other side of the galaxy. He thinks that maybe he'll send Clark's family to another system as well, when suddenly Superman claws his way back through another portal, telling Lex that he isn't how he was before, and his mind and body are stronger than ever thanks to what happened with the Genesis power. Superman tells tells him that concepts like time, weight, and distance have lost any meaning for him, and in moments he can cross distances that aren't even measured in distances, they are so big. With a single touch, he dismantles Lex's warsuit, telling him he does it all without Lex's metal suits or ray guns. Lex pleads for the hero not to kill him, and Clark tells him that him just thinking that makes him wrong. He's going to prison for murder, and next time he thinks he has the power to threaten him or his family, he should think again. Later in Gotham, Superman meets with Batman and Nightwing, learning that the world was subject to a telepathic attack, and a suggestion wormed its way into every mind on Earth. The Justice League, their reserve heroes, and the Titans all have psychic defenses set up by Martian Manhunter, and the Kents, Jay and Lois, were protected by the shield over the Kent farmhouse. But everyone else on the planet no longer recognizes the identities of Clark Kent and John Kent as the Supermen. Clark knows that there are photos and videos revealing who he and John are, but Batman reveals that not only has the world forgotten, but the suggestion in their minds is so strong that if anyone sees any images or media that contradicts what their minds tell them, they reject it hard, and in Perry's case, they have a stroke. Clark wonders why, with all his power, Lex decided to do this, and Bruce knows it's simple, since Lex doesn't like the world seeing that Clark and John are human. He wonders if this is such a bad thing though, admiring his work as Clark Kent, and he can't be happy that such a powerful force of good like Lois Lane has been reduced to being the wife of Superman in so many people's eyes recently. Clark agrees, and that's one part of going public he did not appreciate, and he knows Lois would never complain, yet he knows it wasn't fair on her. He knows that he can adjust to this, but he's worried John will have a hard time. John, however, picks himself up a coffee, with the barista getting his name wrong. The man apologizes, but John knows it's perfect, finally having a successful secret identity for himself, as on Stryker's Island, Lex is sealed away in a prison in the most secure part of the facility. Elsewhere in the multiverse, a Superman is found dead by someone who knows this is yet another Kal-El that has been murdered. They know they have to stop this, but another voice doesn't want to risk involving another dimension's Kal-El. The Superman of Earth 2, VAL-ZOD, knows that they will need the son of Superman, wanting to go and find John Kent. In Metropolis, John Corbin is woken by the hologram of Lex and his scientist, who assures John that this is all real and he should find his new body almost indistinguishable from the body he was born in, with a few enhancements that is. John finds that he's been given a totally new human-looking body, as Lex tells him it's time to remind Superman whose city Metropolis really is.